As we know, there are many unsolved mysteries in the world, many things that are far beyond human understanding. If there is something truly powerful in this world, it is the universe itself, which is responsible for everything that is happening, has happened, or will happen in the future. Because of the powers of this universe, different dimensions exist at the same time, and nothing can happen without its consent. Its powers are limitless. But this universe distributed its powers into a few mana stones and hid them in different corners of different dimensions so that no one could misuse them. And when needed, the universe could find a worthy person and grant them its powers to save the world from the forces born from the hatred of the people existing in this world. The universe wrote all this knowledge in a book and created a guardian who could protect the book from all evil forces. The universe also gave this guardian a knife so sharp that it could cut through the layers of dimensions. This knife helped the guardian travel across different dimensions so they could place those powerful objects in safe places whenever any danger was sensed and protect them from any evil being. On one side, the universe was trying its best to make its creation better and better and to figure out how it could protect them from the troubles that might come in the future. It knew that among all of its countless creations, one particular creation, human beings, could become a great danger, because they possessed feelings, and among those feelings, the most powerful one was hatred. Whatever the universe had feared began to happen. Even though this hatred was one of the things created by the universe itself, it came into existence without the universe truly wanting it to, because humans had complete freedom to think. And the universe was bound to give them what they thought of, even if it had to create an entirely new dimension to do so. Hatred and jealousy were the products of the human mind alone. This hatred was slowly gathering in the world, and over time, it could become a threat to the universe itself, because, just like the universe, it too had no limit to its power. Its strength came directly from human hatred. The more hatred there was, the stronger this force became. And, as feared, a time came when this hatred grew so powerful that it created a creature of its own, not a human born from human hatred, nor a creature that the universe could have made, because it had only one purpose: to destroy everything in existence that had been created by the universe. The power of hatred had completely transformed itself into a creature of its own. Since it did not have the ability to create, it converted itself from one form into another, just as the universe takes the energy of our thoughts and transforms it into what we wish to see. Perhaps the truth of the universe is far more complex than we know. By this time, the creature had come into existence, with a desire to end everything. Yes, it had the desire, but to do this, it needed the special powers that the universe had hidden away in different dimensions for its own protection. Without these powers, the creature was incomplete, and it also feared that someone might stand against it who possessed the strength to defeat it. In search of the universe's powers, Ruck, the name of that creature, began wandering through different dimensions, exploring every corner. But even after searching extensively, he did not find any such powers. However, his own powers kept increasing, growing with himself, because his strength was directly fueled by the hatred that was intensifying in the present world. Then, from deep within Rucka's inner self, he heard a voice, very faint at first, but he felt that someone was trying to communicate with him. So, he began meditating. Many years passed, and that voice grew stronger. Now, Ruck could hear it clearly. Ruck listened, and the voice said, "I am you, and you are me. You were created from me. I am the hatred that brought you into existence. I know what you desire and how you can obtain it." Ruck asked, "How will I get what I want?" The voice then revealed everything to him, including that he would have to take a book known as the Sutra from the Guardian by killing him, because the Guardian would never give it up while alive. After hearing all this, Ruck set out in search of the Guardian. The voice had told him not only about the Guardian's powers but also about his weaknesses, so that it would be easier to defeat him, although by now, Rucka's own powers had already reached their peak, fueled by the ever-growing hatred in the world. With the help of that voice, Ruck somehow figured out where the Guardian was, but reaching there was extremely difficult because the Guardian had created a separate dimension to protect the book, a dimension where his powers became even stronger. But Ruck had made up his mind that he would achieve his goal no matter what. He would obtain everything he desired, even if he had to go to any extent for it. Using his powers, Ruck traveled through different dimensions once again in search of the Guardian. But this time, he already knew where the Guardian would be and how he could be defeated. And Ruck succeeded in finding him. The Guardian was sitting there, meditating, in a place where there was nothing but endless darkness. Hanging from his shoulder was a bag from which the blue light of the mana stone embedded in the book was glowing. Tied to his waist was the blue stone knife that the Guardian had received from the universe itself. Ruck saw the Guardian and started moving toward him. At that very moment, the Guardian opened his eyes, beautiful eyes with green irises, black pupils, and long white hair. Then, in a deep, calm voice, the Guardian spoke. So, just as the universe had feared and warned me about, that moment has finally arrived. And it has come even earlier than they had told me. Ruck replied, yes, see how time and destiny have brought us to this point. Perhaps we could have existed together, but the path we chose has turned us into enemies. And today, only one of us can walk away alive. One of us must vanish from this world. We both are bound to this fight. The Guardian said, yes, I accept whatever happens, because it is my duty to protect this book even if it costs me my life. You walk the path you have chosen, and I will follow the one that has been given to me. Then, the fight between the Guardian and Ruck began. The Guardian seemed to have the upper hand over Ruck and believed himself to be more powerful. But at the same time, something felt strange to him. Ruck wasn't fighting offensively. Instead, he was using only defensive moves, and that unsettled the Guardian. On the other side, Ruck was waiting for the right moment for the Guardian to exhaust himself and be forced to boost his powers, to enter his excited state. The Guardian could draw energy from the universe only once, and that too when his own powers weakened and he needed strength to win. That moment finally arrived. The Guardian's strength had nearly run out from his continuous attacks, his stamina was almost depleted. Ruck's stamina, too, had dropped, since defensive moves consumed more mana than offensive ones. But this was exactly the moment Ruck had been waiting for. At that point, the Guardian unleashed his ultimate power, the ultimate sacrifice for the universe. Through this ability, the Guardian drew immense energy from the universe itself. Just as an electron jumps to an excited state when it receives energy, the Guardian too reached a heightened state. But because of the overwhelming energy, he became unstable, his defenses weakened. The moment he activated this power, the knife's mana stone shifted from blue to red. With this surge of energy, the Guardian was freed completely from the laws of the universe, with the only exception being death. This was the very moment Ruck had been anticipating. Yet doubt still flickered in his mind, could he truly defeat the Guardian? He chose, however, to trust in himself. Ruck now knew that the real battle was about to begin. He invoked his own power, Field of Absorption. But the moment his mana stones tried to absorb the Guardian's attacks, the sheer force shattered them all, and the attack struck Ruck directly. Still, it did not harm him as much as expected. Ruck understood this was the time to use his strongest ability, the World of Wishes. He knew that to defeat the Guardian, he would have to remove him from this dimension altogether. So, he created a void, a place of pure nothingness. Now, the fight turned equal. Ruck was attacking and defending in balance, while the Guardian's strikes were landing but not causing severe injuries. Meanwhile, with weakened defenses, the Guardian was suffering heavy injuries himself. Both of their energies eventually drained. Both were gravely wounded. The Guardian's ultimate powers finally wore off, returning him to his normal state. Neither of them could move anymore. The Guardian knew his time was running out, since the price of his ultimate power was his own sacrifice. Somehow, he pulled out the knife and began opening a dimensional path to send the book to safety. But at that very moment, Ruck used a special mana stone he had stored earlier. With its power, the knife cut across countless dimensions at once. Ruck hadn't anticipated this effect. Taking advantage of the chaos, the Guardian grabbed the book and tried to throw it into the dimensional hole. Ruck caught hold of it and pulled it back toward himself. But because of the deep pull of the dimensional rift, the book was torn into two halves, one disappeared into an unknown place, while the other half remained with Ruck. Then, Ruck took out the Soul Stone, which could absorb the Guardian's soul, his very energy, so that the Guardian could never return to stand in his way again. Ruck had already been warned about this through the voice of his inner self, because the Guardian was nothing but energy, and due to the time loop created by the universe, he could transform and return again someday. Ruck had received half of the book, and in it was described a bracelet that contained a black mana stone. The book stated that the universe had sealed away a part of its powers, such as dark energy, antimatter, antigravity, and countless others inside this bracelet and hid it in the core of a planet. All of the universe's powers were confined within it, except for 4: creation, destruction, gravity control, and transformation. Other than these 4, every power resided in that bracelet, and whoever wore it would become the master of them all. Ruck was so exhausted from this study that he decided to rest, to keep meditating and read the book more deeply. His injuries were so severe that even his gift of regeneration was unable to heal him. While Ruck was lost in this long wait, burning with the desire to become stronger than ever before, on the other hand, the remaining half of the book was wandering, searching for a human worthy of it. The universe too was searching for someone who could defeat Ruck with its granted powers and use them rightly. One half of the book was with Ruck, while the other half drifted in space along with the same knife. Because of the mana stones within them, there was a force of attraction between the book and the knife. That's why they remained together, waiting for someone who would one day use them to save the world. One day, a meteorite struck them, sending them hurtling rapidly toward Earth. Perhaps the universe had found someone on Earth who could set things right, or perhaps not. The book and knife entered Earth's atmosphere and began to fall, but instead of land, they plunged into a river. Meanwhile, on Earth, a man was seen committing suicide by jumping into a river from a bridge. Some people rushed to save him, but it was already too late, he had sunk deep into the river. Others called the police, but the police thought an inquiry was more important than searching for the body right away. When nothing was found, they began searching too, but by then, there was no trace of that man. Eventually, the police closed the case, declaring him missing. But that man was still alive. Swept far away by the river's strong current, he regained consciousness and could hardly believe he was still breathing. But why? What mistake had he made that the universe was punishing him by keeping him alive? He stood up weakly, coughing, and realized he had been carried to a place where the river was shallow. The water was so clean, crystal clear, like nothing he had ever seen before. He lay back down, and memories of his life began flooding his mind, his painful past, everything that had happened, and he cursed his fate, asking why him, why always him. Faint memories returned, voices of people who had always called him Panoti, ill omen, cursed, because his mother had died at the time of his birth. The only one who had ever been there for him was his father, who had lovingly named him Arnov. His father adored him, but ever since his accident, he had been in a coma for many years, leaving Arnov completely alone. Since then, Arnov had to bear all the expenses, his own and his father's hospital bills, by himself. He studied in college while also working part-time jobs to somehow manage everything. But he was truly broken when he discovered that his best friend was secretly with his girlfriend. It wasn't the betrayal of the girlfriend that hurt him, it was his best friend's. 6 years of friendship, and he betrayed him for a girl. Thinking about all this, tears filled Arnov's eyes. He tried to stand up, but his blurred vision from crying made him stumble. When he finally stood again, he noticed something some distance away, a faint blue glow. Still dizzy, he staggered toward it, only to discover the book and the knife. He tried reading the book, but he couldn't understand a thing. Still, he picked up the book and the knife and began searching for a place to rest, for by now the river had carried him deep into a forest. Night was falling. After finding some fruit to eat, he came across a huge tree large enough to rest beneath. Exhausted and in pain, he lay down and fell asleep. He was sleeping when he suddenly felt that something was coming toward him. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw a powerful, tall, broad, strange creature, half wolf, half human. Quickly, he picked up the book and the knife and started running, but the creature was faster. There was something unusual about it. It was terrifying, extremely terrifying, but strangely, Arnov didn't feel as scared as he should have. He kept running while the creature chased him. While running, Arnov stumbled and fell. To defend himself, he held the knife in his hand, but since the knife's powers weren't yet active, it was just like an ordinary knife. The creature attacked him with its large claws, injuring him. Blood from the wound fell onto the knife, and the knife slipped from his hand because the creature had grabbed his leg and was dragging him with its jaws. Arnov thought this was the end for him. But then, he saw the knife suddenly begin to glow intensely. On its own, it sped toward the creature and pierced its chest, starting to absorb it. Arnov was shocked, unable to understand what was happening. Slowly, the creature disappeared, absorbed entirely into the knife, which then floated steadily in the air as if waiting for Arnov to claim it. Arnov felt as though the knife was speaking to him. As soon as he touched it, the mana stone embedded in the knife cracked, not as if it were broken, but as though it had divided into two separate stones, one blue and one pure white. Now, all of the knife's memories, the history of Ruck, the Guardian, the universe, why things were done the way they were, and even the book flashed before Arnov's eyes. The knife held the Guardian's memories within it. For the first time, Arnov could truly read and understand everything written in the book. Quickly, he placed both the book and the knife into his bag and made his way home. Exhausted from the night's events and overwhelmed by what had just happened, he fell asleep, deciding it was better to rest before trying to comprehend or believe it all. The next day, Arnov woke up and went to college, but his mind wasn't focused. During one lecture, he became so distracted that the professor threw him out of class. Seeing this, his best friend tried to talk to him, but Arnov ignored him and went straight home. At home, he picked up the book and began reading. He learned that there are 4 main powers the universe kept separate, while all the remaining powers were sealed into a bracelet. Of those 4, 2 powers, creation and transformation, were hidden within the knife. These powers activate only when someone signs a contract with the knife, and unknowingly, Arnov had already done so. However, he still needed to sign another contract before truly becoming the knife's master. This second contract was called the heart chain-bound contract. According to it, he could never use these powers for evil purposes, otherwise, a mana chain around his heart would instantly destroy it. The knife itself chose whom to grant its powers to, which was why it never activated for the Guardian before. Once the contract was complete, the knife would transform into an earbud so it could always stay with Arnov, returning to its true form when needed. Still, Arnov needed time to fully understand its powers. Meanwhile, another Guardian, the one meant to aid him in defeating Ruck, would help Arnov, but first, Arnov had to find that Guardian's weapon. Arnov conducted extensive research many times in that book about a new weapon, what kind of person would be worthy of it and where it could be found. However, despite many efforts, he could not learn much about that weapon. Very little was written about who could wield it, because every weapon has its own unique criteria. When such a weapon comes close to its chosen person, it automatically feels drawn toward them and binds itself to that person when they truly need it. By now, Ruck had already gained many powers from that bracelet. He had given a part of his own energy and signed a contract with the bracelet. Using its powers, he had learned how to create an army from dark matter, and he had also begun to sense certain things. He could feel that somewhere on this very planet, on Earth itself, there existed a person whom the universe had chosen to destroy him. He could not go directly to find that person, because many of the bracelet's powers were still hidden from him, and he needed time to make them his own. Ruck had forcefully and unwillingly signed the contract with the bracelet, which is why it would take him a long time to fully obtain its powers. But he also had to keep an eye on his enemies and maintain fear and hatred in their hearts, as well as in the hearts of ordinary people, because that too was a source of his power. That is why he had started sending his army to Earth. Arnov was somehow managing the situation. Through hard work and with the will of the universe itself, he had very quickly mastered many of the powers of his knife, Sukhoi. Still, even if he wanted to create a barrier around the entire Earth to prevent Rucka's army from entering, that barrier would consume enormous energy and could last only 4 or 5 days. Moreover, It could only stop the army, not destroy it. As soon as the barrier broke, the entire army would enter Earth's atmosphere all at once. Even though this army was Rucka's lowest-ranking force, it could still cause massive destruction in the human world and bring equal benefit to Ruck. These beings could control people's dreams and show them dreams of their own choosing, increasing fear and hatred in their hearts. They consumed these emotions and transferred them to Ruck. Killing them was not easy. To eliminate them, one had to kill the leader who came with them. Once the leader was killed, the rest would vanish on their own. However, finding the leader was difficult, and killing them was even harder because the leader was extremely powerful. Arnov was somehow handling all of this alone. After the exhaustion of daytime work and college, fighting them at night had become extremely difficult. Gradually, their powers began to increase. They started causing destruction even during the day and began physically harming people, whereas earlier they had acted only through dreams. For Arnov, handling everything alone was becoming increasingly difficult. He needed to find another hero as soon as possible. But the question in his mind was, how? How could he possibly reach that hero? Before that, he would have to find the hero's magical weapon himself, about which he had no idea where it was or how to find it. So he asked Sukhoi. Sukhoi replied through telepathy, saying that all this information was given in Sutra, the book. To access it, Arnov would have to sign a blood contract with Sutra as well, through which he would gain all of Sutra's powers. Arnov then did exactly as Sukhoi, the knife, had instructed. After signing the blood contract with Sutra, he learned the truth. The second magical weapon had actually been hidden on Earth itself. Now the question is, how will Arnov find his partner's weapon? And more importantly, who is that partner? Find out in the next chapter. Stay tuned.